Hello again! Today I am reviewing the Adonit Pixel stylus for the iPad. The Pixel is a Bluetooth stylus that syncs on a program-by-program basis. It claims to be super accurate, have pressure sensitivity, shortcut buttons, and palm rejection. Now, a lot of iPad styluses have made these promises over the years and have completely failed to deliver, so how does the Pixel stack up? Now, last time we talked I did a first impressions video because I got a broken stylus and it just didn't work at all on my iPad. This one is much better. So in this review, I'm going to be comparing it to a couple different things. The first is how does it compare to the Apple Pencil? And second, I'm going to be comparing it to some of the other Bluetooth styluses that are available for the iPad that I've tested out in the past. Now, from a quality perspective, the Apple Pencil is so much better than any other stylus I have ever tried out for the iPad just because of the way the iPad is built. It's designed to work with the Apple Pencil, whereas the other styluses are kind of hacking the touch aspect of the iPad in order to work well. The problem being that they don't work well at all. Now, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by the Pixel. It is better than any other Bluetooth stylus I have ever used on the iPad. I still feel that the Apple Pencil is still leagues beyond it, but this stylus compared to any other Bluetooth stylus I have used is just way, way better. Another plus with this stylus is that it works on traditional iPads and on the iPhone, whereas the Apple Pencil will only work on the two models of the iPad Pro. The Adonit Pixel sells for $80 compared to the Apple Pencil's $100. But if you don't want to buy an iPad Pro and want to use it on your newer version of your iPad or iPhone, this will work. So I'm going to start with the good aspects of the Adonit Pixel. 1, it registers lines. That's right, when you draw with it, a line shows up. You might think that all styluses could do this, but you would be amazed at how many can't when you start drawing quickly. Lines just won't register or things get messed up. But I found that the Adonit Pixel just doesn't drop a lot of lines. In fact, like 95% of the lines that I was putting down were showing up. This let me do things like quick drawing or cross-hatching. Another thing that it does well is it allows you to draw a circle. Again, this may surprise you if you've never used an iPad stylus before, but it has historically been incredibly difficult to draw a circle. Part of it is these older styluses are so inaccurate that when you go around the edge and come around to the other edge, it's very hard to make those two lines match up. And I can say that this stylus is accurate enough to do that. Part of it is because it has a very fine tip. In the past, Adonit pens have used these like little disc tips in order to kind of emulate accuracy without actually having that real accuracy. I'm not sure how they do it, but it works. And like I said, I've tried other things like cross-hatching or drawing a box and filling it in with lines. Just making one line draw and connect to another line, it does this pretty well. To me, this is like the bare bone basics of what any drawing stylus should be able to accomplish, but this is the first Bluetooth stylus I have ever used that can do it. So needless to say, I was very skeptical coming into this review, but I have been pleasantly surprised. Alright, so now we get to part 2, which is how does it compare to the Apple Pencil? Now, a good stylus is like a good pen. It's calibrated to feel natural, and as you get used to using it on any tablet, you really get a feel for the pen. When you write or draw, the pressure of it just seems to come naturally over time. Now, with any digital stylus, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but as you get used to it, it becomes very comfortable to you. And everybody has a different level of pressure that they like and that they're used to. I usually set my pen width based on the pressure that I'm used to drawing with. And so that way I can kind of get a feel for the really heavy lines. When I press harder, I want a thicker stroke. When I pull back, I want a lighter stroke. And so I'm not always changing the width of my pen tool so much in drawing programs. I'm using the pressure of my hand to modulate it. Now, the Apple Pencil does this flawlessly. It's one of the best styluses I've ever used across any device for this sort of thing. Now, the Pixel, when I start drawing, I can get a consistent line and a consistent width, so I can hold that width the way I want it. But when I go to draw a second line, if I feel like I'm pressing it about the same pressure level, my pen stroke might be thinner or it might be thicker. So even though it can hold that consistency throughout a line, going from one line to the next line to the next line, I noticed quite a bit of variation in the amount of pressure I had to apply to get the same exact kind of stroke. It was very hard to be consistent when drawing that way. Now, even though the stylus has 2048 levels of pressure sensitivity, it didn't exactly feel calibrated super well. I have no idea how many levels of pressure sensitivity the Apple Pencil has. They don't really advertise that, but I find that these numbers of how many levels of pressure sensitivity you have aren't really that relevant if it's not calibrated properly. I also found that when I was applying the pressure, it usually started a couple pixels after I started applying the pressure, so it wasn't an exact science. I do a lot of little dash lines in my artwork, and I found that with this particular stylus, it wasn't good at those little dash lines. It usually just made them too broad or too thin, or it would pick it up a couple pixels too late, and so it would be too short. Now, the Apple Pencil syncs up globally, which means I plug it into my iPad, the iPad knows it's there, and any program can then use the Apple Pencil as an input device. The Adonit Pixel syncs on an app-by-app basis, and many popular apps like Adobe Sketch and Procreate still don't work with this new stylus. Now, one thing that this has that the Apple Pencil does not are little buttons along the side. These are customizable from program to program, and like the program I'm using here, Medibang, I can go in and customize what those buttons do. Time to talk about the elephant in the room, palm rejection. The Pixel has palm rejection. Kinda. So the Apple Pencil, when you pick it up and you put your palm on your device, it just works, and it works exactly the way you would expect it to. That is not how it works with the Pixel. Now, some apps work better than others. I found that Sketchbook, for example, had pretty good palm rejection, but I don't really care for that app all that much. Medibang, which is the program you see here, wasn't quite as good. The problem I kept running into was that every time my palm hit the screen or was lifted up just a tiny bit, I would zoom out or it would flick around the screen or something goofy would happen. So I had to get into the habit of holding my palm on the screen before my pen actually touched the screen. I think palm rejection is so important because if you're going to draw, you have to be comfortable, and in order to be comfortable, you have to be able to rest your hand on the device when you're drawing. So like I said, I'm using Medibang here. Now this is a compatible program with the Pixel. You can toggle on palm rejection. Now what does that do? It completely disables all hand gestures. You want to pinch and zoom? Tough luck, you can't. Now many iPad drawing programs rely on these gestures for you to move around your drawing easily or basically use the app. So to take away so many features so that it doesn't detect your palm is a brutal trade-off. You're gonna spend a lot of time jumping in and just turning on and off that setting just so you can go back to your drawing and zoom in and out. This isn't a new problem with iPad styluses. This is a problem Bluetooth styluses have had for years. And on some level, the Pixel has improved, but it's just not there yet. Next, I'm gonna talk about support. This is where it gets rough, guys. Now, in my last video, I did a first impression video, and I was really holding back. I kind of wanted to throw the stylus out the window. And I found the entire experience of using that broken stylus to be really frustrating. I mentioned in my video last week that I cut out a lot of elements of that video that were really angry because I don't want to be the angry dude yelling at a product company on the internet. I want to be fair. But this was one of those moments where I was kind of mad. Part of the reason I was so frustrated is because of the way that support responded or didn't respond to my emails. On the first day I sent them an email, they wrote back right away, and then I sent them another email detailing out exactly what happened to help them out. And then the next day I sent them another email where I made a little video showing some of the things that I was going through and the ways that the stylus wasn't working. And then there was silence. And so I wrote them back and asked how things were going. Still nothing. Now I could understand if they decided to cut off communications because I was an angry customer or I was being mean to them, but I was really trying to help them make a better product and troubleshoot this thing. So the fact that I just heard nothing back and it's been like, I don't know, almost a month, over a month at this point since I've heard anything at all, that's disappointing. I would understand if this was like a $20 stylus that was really dirt cheap, but this is 80 bucks. This is the most expensive Bluetooth stylus you can buy. And I would expect that with a premium price comes decent support. On some level, I really just wanted them to write me back and say, hey, it's busted, why don't you return it? I also found the documentation pretty frustrating. Like, for example, it said hold the button until it blinks, but the light on the button of the stylus doesn't actually blink. It kind of glows brighter. It also sends you to the wrong website to tell you what apps it works with. And when you're having a frustrating experience, these things kind of stack up and start to build. So overall today, I've said some nice things about it and some not so nice things about it. I really am cheering for Adonit at this point, just because their styluses keep improving and improving quite a bit with every iteration. And to think they've done this like with Bluetooth and not having core access to the technology of the iPad that Apple does, this is a really impressive jump forward. At the same time, I feel like I'm grading on a curve. Now, if I was using this stylus on a Wacom tablet or my Surface Pro, I would probably smash it. I mean, the fact that palm rejection doesn't work, the fact that like it doesn't pick up every single line, the fact that it takes a couple pixels before it registers, the fact that the pressure sensitivity is a little off. If this wasn't an iPad stylus, I would probably call it a piece of junk. But since it is for the iPad and there have been so many worse pieces of junk, this doesn't look as bad. So here's my suggestion. If you have $80 lying around, and you need something for handwriting, this works really well. If you're looking specifically at illustration or drawing, I'm still a little hesitant to recommend it. Of course, this is way cheaper than buying an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil together, so I'm kind of torn. So I'm sure there are going to be comments in this video like, should I get it? And my answer is going to be, I really don't know if it's right for you or not. Now, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'm probably going to have it for another week or two before I send it back, so I'll be able to test out some other things if you were kind of wondering about something that I maybe didn't cover here on this video. You can also hit me up over on Twitter because I tend to answer a little faster over there. And that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Also like it because it helps other people find it, and I'll see you in a week or two.